Legend says that Hercules swept Cerberus right off his feet and effortlessly set him down softly as a songbird. Atlas kept the world upon his back and every day wondered whether he could stand it any longer. And Tara Reid came out to say the man they tried to label the messiah of morality was really just another rapist. And I don't intend to hesitate when asked who was the stronger. Tara, like Assange, knew that carrying the truth would be the hardest labor. Tara knew that her assailant wasn't gonna make us any safer, and knew he's just the type of man to hand a decent foreign leader US printed walking papers, and knew he'd be relentless and aggressive in the war he'd wage upon her very character, that his attempts to weaken and degrade and embarrass her would be her only compensation. But I strongly doubt that anyone could ever have foreseen the stream of hate that came from quote-unquote progressives and the self-styled titans of survivor advocation. So if you really think there's something to be gained out of sharing your pain with the world, you are sorely mistaken. The Biden team just dragged their feet addressing Tara's allegations. Until they had a decent list of smears, then they aired them out on every station. And it turns out no one wants to hear the truth of who they praised as being worthy of such bloated liberal celebration. That no one wants to really know the person they've so valiantly defended, even when it meant they had to gloat and shit all over someone braver than they'd be if given the occasion. Now cue the faceless comment squad invasion. Cue those fuckers crawling out the woodwork to come analyze the way you wore your hair and what you wear. Like your appearance waives your rights, or that somehow you're the reason for your situation. Somehow they've decided you should bear responsibility for what such monstrous men insist on doing. Somehow they're deluded by the empty, hypocritical, and useless fucking platitudes that bastard keeps on spewing. And I think it's very telling that the best of their excuses when they try to come and justify our president's abuses is a hearty butt Trump. In which case I'll remind you that you never saw the news attempt to sell us Donald Trump like he was morally upstanding or a decent human. But when Joe says something bigoted or ogles someone's little kid, CNN says, isn't this refreshing? Biden's like a mix of JFK and FDR with all the finer parts of Harry Truman. Christ, I know that they don't think that we're the brightest, but at least pretend we got a couple lumens. Ask yourself if you have ever questioned what they fed you, or do you just shut your eyes and then consume it? And now ask yourself if you ate every one of Biden's lies under guise of harm reduction and the promise of a slight improvement. And now imagine long ago that Biden chose to show you who he really was by traumatizing you for his amusement. Now imagine that you watched him touch a Bible with those filthy hands, and then assume the power of the highest seat in all the land, of knowing your attacker wields a global coalition born of three-letter agencies who'll make a life's mission out of trying to discredit you through lies, damn lies, and collusion. Big tech is never gonna separate from our surveillance state. Fuck's sakes, they're just a breath away from total fusion. So there will come a time where even if you see the light, your voice will never reach the sky through all the bots and all the noise pollution. So trust us when we tell you that the masking of abuses is perhaps this country's oldest institution. And I know nothing nobler than facing it in honor of the truth when you know that the people holding power have been neutralizing truth since there was wet ink on the Constitution. So know that Tara's truth is something crucial to the movement. And if you see yourself a partner to the revolution, help this country see through all the baseless propaganda through the crux of Joe's illusions. And recognize that Tara Reid gave everything she had so she could tell us what the truth is. Recognize the decent thing to do when someone bares their soul and shows their bruises is not to ask for context or offer up your own solutions. Your job is just to listen with an honest mind and put yourself on Tara's side a moment so you understand the path she chooses. That there is no instant fame worth the dragging of your name. And if that's what you think, you've a lot to learn about the kind of facts the mob can handle and the kind that it refuses. You've a lot to learn about the news and all its many uses. Guess you've yet to learn the truth the news will serve as fruit from which they've squeezed out all the juices. And we all eat the husk and just pretend it's full of nutrients and isn't really useless. But the jaws of our ability to yield accountability are absolutely toothless. So don't you kid yourself that any lips are being loosened. They won't ever tell us where the bodies are or show us where the proof is. It's on you to recognize the lechery our president so regularly oozes. It's on you to muster up some honesty and ask yourself how Biden won your trust, but it's America that loses. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. March of Dimes. Family fun run cancer bonanza. Front page of Apartheid Times. All of the charm of a car bomb. Arms wide open, taking no targets alive. Dark was the night, save for a red glow painting the sky in a sickening light. Like a scene out of hell or a day in an utterly alien life. When the fire runs wild. These are the years where the wild is more your daily drive. To wrestle the truth of extinction from out of the jaws of your pride. So open them wide, now is the time, there's nothing to fight. Blasted or sworn to defy, the end is the same and we're inches away from the line. So abandon your ego to die, the bed that we made is where we go to die. But never was passing in one's own sleep such a hideous sight. Such a storm of convulsion and bile expulsion from out of our mouths and our eyes. But these are the rights they implore us to exercise, with our signature forged and our hands all tied. And with eye contact and a senator's smile, they thank you for saving democracy right as they tighten the binds. Right when they're joining your chain to your neighbors, leading you out in a line. Call it the March of Dimes. One more charity parody. Hold back grants while we dance for the president's salary. Funding the bunkers where all of the wealthy will cower to witness our steepest decline. To err is a trait so inherently human. And to hoard enough wealth that you peacefully sleep when those humans are burning alive is truly divine. If divinity really means withered and fully decaying inside, you could live with yourself till you run out of wine and ring for a drone off a prime, skim a little off of the top of the March of Dimes. Sign of our system of capital, head to the sky with a hideous cry that mimics the suffering families out on the street that have built a career out of passing by, who were part of the great design. Part of a citizen base with its fate resigned. Part of a two-party system where both of the goals align. And the end result is more housing crisis than the plot device of 2009. Capitalism demanded a sacrifice. So I walk to the square, hand them my son, and they hand me the dice. I roll for his life. To an equal extent, you could say I was rolling for mine. I'd called any favor, I paid any bribe. But it's all up to me for the roll, so I close my eyes. And the sound of the crowd is the same for a 1 or a 5. Two equal outcomes playing as though they're on opposite sides. And I know in my heart that on 4 out of 6 he'll be fine. But I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. Nah, I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight.
You know, sir, like you much better with my glasses off.
I guess I was born with the curse of foresight, 'cause I knew Joe was only gonna represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You could keep the ore flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow of the fascists have cast is on your doorstep in the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight. While up in the sky, a blimp glides by with a sign like New Year's 2022. Brought to you jointly by Pfizer and Coors Light. While the centrists observe from a comfortable courtside, right in the thick of the action behind a partition. We're in a morbid position, a plague of evictions, born a comorbid condition of the cancer of wealth. I fantasize that I cancel myself, hands on your head, throw your best laid plans in the well. There are no more answers, questions go back on the shelf. All Joe's donors, a quick show of hands. How many of you sub to the Lockheed Martin OnlyFans? How many are loyalist patrons for the Raytheon Patreon? Occupy Iraq and send $1 million off into the great beyond. Cool yourself with the safety on. True to yourself in as much as you dutifully spew out a mucus of QAnon. You can't convince me the capital wasn't surrendered with every intention of digging us deeper down into the treacherous webbing of censorship, ebbing your speech and dissension so you can't hold Biden accountable. Not in his mentions and not in the streets. Know to the end that Joe will defend the elite. Joe won't embarrass McConnell, but Joe's not embarrassed if all of your children are hungry and weak. Too hungry to speak. Too hungry to stand, they just lie at his feet. Joe is fresh out of empathy, fresh out of policy, but he'd love to know, what was your favorite ice cream flavor to eat? Back when you used to eat. I guess the road isn't rocky for people who thought we were free. They'll believe what they read, and Joe's here to lull them to sleep. Counting us down by the dozens, the culling of gullible sheep, led to the slaughter by media tyrants and government thieves. These are the leeches that stubbornly suck where there's nothing to bleed. These are the tumors that force us to crawl on our knees. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. My lips, brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance. And all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey, cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment. Give you 2 coins for the ferryman.
Who are these people?
I had to turn the mics on. There we go. And come on, other mic. Jeez, why is it so hard? It takes a second every time. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Welcome to INN News. I got my lovely co-host Collin here, the carest of bears.
Up?
What's up, bro?
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Yep.
Glad to be here.
If anyone can be happy this Wednesday.
Man.
You know, it's been a rough day for people, it seems. Ricky, Mr. Ricky Rants, how are you doing today?
Good. How y'all doing?
I'm doing fine. So, let's check, see who we got in the chat. We got some peoples. I'm going to make sure to share this to all the Twitter threads that we got. You know, hopefully they're not like lazy and, you know, watching some other person's show, you know? Like get in here, you know what I'm saying? Let me just share the link in here.
I mean, although if people on the West Coast, this shouldn't be an issue, but I think, like I said, Jackson's live, I believe. So
yeah, well, we can definitely pull his audience. You know,
yeah,
like they're already tired of him. You know, so
no, don't say that.
I know,
Don't
right?
say that.
No, they just get tired of looking at him for that long. You know, they already got everything. They just have to go somewhere else now. Their eyes are like fully.
I'm sure there's some
you know,
people who are in Jackson's community that will highly disagree with you.
Oh, I feel you. Many of them, my friends. You know. So, Ricky, you went somewhere. Was it Monday? Were
Monday
you there?
night, yeah.
Okay.
I was there.
Okay. You managed to sneak into a little eventsies. So I'll bring that up. Right.
Yeah,
so you were at the PEN America Literary Gala. Is where you were at.
Not as a guest, but
okay.
I was there. Yes.
Gotcha. I have to make sure that these names say the right names on them.
And they don't.
Right.
I'm indie, apparently.
I never switch these names. I remember the other nameplates, but these ones are like always. And then I had to remember Ricky has a this instead of a Y. There you go. So I will bring up some information. So, the annual PEN American Literary Gala is a highlight of the New York literary and social calendars, with hundreds of guests and an exceptional group of leading writers who sit among them as literary hosts. This year's celebration took place Monday, May 23rd at the American Museum of Natural History. The evening begins with an elegant cocktail reception, followed by dinner under the whale in the museum's Hall of Ocean Life. You can watch the full program below, browse videos, and read remarks from our honorees and featured guests. The proceeds from the dinner are crucial to PEN America's dynamic cultural programming and critical advocacy work on behalf of free expression. For more information on the PEN American Literary Gala, please contact the special events team at this place. So here were some of the people showing up, right? I'm sure you saw a few of these people. The host, Faith Saley, I guess is who that is.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Zadie Smith, Jack. That's a crazy name because it's probably Ukrainian, right? Pitoksks, I imagine, something like that. This guy's definitely Ukrainian. Vladislav Yespinko, Don Katz. Some of the presenters. One of them, Michael Douglas, Cory Booker. Both were there, as well as Ruth Nega and Asia Kate Dillon. Whoever those people are. I wish I knew. Interesting. I found this. I don't know if you got to eyeball this, Ricky, but this was all their sponsors, right?
Yep.
And so on and so forth. So yeah, we've got like the Penguin Random House is like their biggest one, right? You know, but just if you look through, there's some notable ones for sure.
Bloomberg, The Atlantic,
Amazon Literary Partnership. The Atlantic, right?
Publishers.
Yes, I'm looking for this one over here. Oh, the Telly, Fajardi, and Weinstein and Bose Weinstein. So love to have some Weinsteins show up for things. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that, and you can go on down the link of like their patrons, which like Books A Million and the New Yorker and like Warner Brothers,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
Why not?
What else we got?
And Alec
Scholastic. Yep. Scholastic, Wonderium, Skybound, First Republic Bank, you know, Blackstone, of course. I'm just looking over here. These are like committee members or whatever. The Beringers. I was looking for anything in specific that I remember. Yeah, the Weinsteins are also on that committee member group. But anyway, I just figured we'd bring some of that. So what was your experience of this event, Ricky?
Before I get into my critique of the event, I just want to preface that by saying everyone was quite nice and pleasant. So I don't, before I start being very critical of what I witnessed there, you know, it's one of these events where this organization really prides itself on free speech and combating censorship, you know, protecting the First Amendment. That's what this group is all about. They've been around for years and years and years. People like Meryl Streep and the like show up to their events on the regular, right? So this is not like an exceptional year for them. This has been happening for many, many years. Apparently, I didn't know much about it, to be honest. It was kind of off my radar. I guess I'm not one of the coastal elites that gets invited to this kind of event.
Yeah.
But I was working this event, and when I started hearing like what this group's all about, I'm like, wow, that's really timely and relevant, even though they've been kind of this kind of group for years. And then I realized, yeah, this is not really about protecting free speech. When you really dig in, you have some of these speeches where they talk about, you know, protecting our democracy and, you know, anti-Russia sentiments and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing this here at the free speech gala in America. Oh, okay, cool. So it's just one of those events where you're like, the idea, it sounds great, at first, and not every speech was bad. Like Zadie Smith is fantastic. She's a brilliant woman. She kind of sticks out because she's not really someone who, like, she, even in her speech, she's like, I'm not someone who like does these kinds of things. I'm not on any committees. Like, you're honoring me and I'm honored, but like, I don't even know if I deserve this because I don't bump elbows with the people. Like, I'm just a writer and that's my gift and that's what I give people. She was pretty cool. Zadie Smith was cool. And she brought up something which, you know, in her speech, which kind of challenged the audience. I feel, and I feel like she knew it because she's a brilliant writer. She knows how to like kind of challenge her audience just enough. You know, when you're at a gala like this, you kind of play to the you know, the liberal elites that come there. So you really ramp up the Ukraine, support Ukraine stuff, and they just, oh, look at us, we're so, you know, we're so
it's
great.
Like 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11, clap, clap, clap. We're so great. We're so great. We're such good people. That's what that crowd is. But Zadie was literally like, you know, I often wonder, you know, why a Ukrainian child is looked at like a victim or as a victim, and a Syrian child is looked at as a statistic. Yeah. And like, there was a few people that like really started clapping. I was in the back clapping like immediately. And there's a few people that really started clapping. So she got an applause break, but it's because a few people like got it. Yeah. You know, like when you say Ukraine there, everyone's like, oh, and they all clap together, like, you know, right. Completely in sync. Ukraine. Just, oh my God. We have to
blindly supporting whatever.
Yeah. Ukraine. And everyone just claps. Yeah. It's like that. But when she said that, when she compared Ukrainian children to Syrian children, there's a few people that really clapped, and they clapped hard too, because they get it. There's a few in that crowd that really get it, and that gave her the applause break. And then other people joined in because, oh, okay, I'll join into that. Sure, I'm a good person. So it's that kind of crowd.
So I have this that I brought with us this evening for. This is from the Bradenton Herald, which, like, I feel like it fits this event really well, the name, you know, but I just thought it was funny the way they were phrasing this whole story, right? So it's like, you know, they honor activists, artists, and dissidents, right? You know, and from an imprisoned Ukrainian journalist to a high school activist in Florida, PEN America paid tribute Monday night to democracy and free expression and warned about the dangers faced in the U.S. and abroad. Instead of being able to focus on menial responsibilities such as schoolwork, my generation has been forced to rapidly mobilize and fight for our future. Florida teenager Jack Pototsk, a prominent opponent of the state's so-called Don't Say Gay bill, said Monday, if our collective voice couldn't make a difference, then they wouldn't be trying so hard to silence it. Marking its 100th year, the literary and human rights organization held its annual fundraising dinner gala as some 650 authors, publishers, editors, and others gathered at the American. We know all this. Literary Service Award, and Audible.com founder Donald Katz apparently was also there. So, you know, they talked about this Ukrainian guy currently serving a 6-year sentence in a Russian labor camp for his reporting in Russian-occupied Crimea, was presented in Abstia, the PEN Barbary Freedom to Write Award given to political prisoners. Yaspinko's wife, Katrina, introduced by actor Michael Douglas, spoke on his behalf. So like the censorship that they were really focusing on this entire evening was like 3 things. It was don't say gay bill, the book burning, as they call it, or removing books from schools. So it's like 2 things that are specifically like DeSantis centric culture war things, basically. And the third one was this Ukrainian journalist who got apprehended and I guess imprisoned by Russians in Crimea, Vladislav Yaspinko, who wasn't there because he's still imprisoned, as far as I know, and his wife showed up allegedly
to accept this award. Allegedly, I don't even know. I mean, you never know about some of these stories, to be honest. But he was detained and captured by Russians.
So some presenters cited personal affinities with the honorees. Douglas noted they had ancestors from Eastern Europe. Katz was introduced by Cory Booker of New Jersey, who recalled that when he was a mayor of Newark a decade ago, Katz made the city his base for his audiobook producer and distributor. Audible was the first major company that moved to Newark when I was a mayor. Booker said people had given up on Newark. People ignored our city. People had declared our city dead. Smith, the British author known for such novels as White Teeth and On Beauty, wondered why she was receiving an award for literary service. And this is what you were talking about, right? As she acknowledged Monday night, she was largely confined her service to writing books, having headed no committees, avoided literally every board I could, ducked out of the way of open letters and literary petitions as if they were lobbed hand grenades. It's a great line. She contrasted herself with such author activists as Simon Weil and Albert Camus and James Baldwin, expressing her awe and respect for them, while calling her work its own kind of contribution, stating that, thought too is a form of action. I know what I am. I'm a novelist. I sit in my room. I write. I read. Sometimes when my children come in to ask me to do something, they will say, you're literally doing nothing. She said, to you, I want to confess I consider it my vocation to put whatever linguistic gifts I have at the service of language itself. But yeah, Michael Douglas was there with his, little Ukraine little lapel here. Got his Ukrainian lapel looking good. 77 is what Michael Douglas is. He's still married to Catherine Zeta-Jones, which, like, good for him.
I mean, that's infinity. How long they've been together for forever,
a while,
so
yeah,
like Hollywood years. So.
Yeah. But he did. I stand with dude, this name is ridiculous. Vladislav Yespinko. So yep. But I just thought it was interesting. I looked up some of the other when I looked up the channel for like PEN America, the YouTube channel. The banner was like Hillary Clinton and like some other lady. Yeah. So yeah, super fun time for you, I bet.
I mean, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but it's just really a bummer when you hear them talk about censorship, but then they don't talk about the people that are getting pulled off of YouTube or social media. They and they talk about Vladislav Yespinko, but no word on Julian Assange.
Right.
They don't talk about the Kiev hit list that Ava Bartlett is on right now and other journalists are on right now. Like it's such a narrow scope and it's only what they approve of. They talk about the book banning, but like these are the same people that would freak out if like the real Anthony Fauci ended up in their kids'
God forbid
library.
Kids get their hand on a Steinbeck novel or right. They're the same. Right. They're the same ones.
Yeah, so it's just like culture war nonsense and pro proxy war nonsense is all it was. And I remember like the most powerful moment of the night when people were filing out to go to the little after party, cocktail for the road party that they do. I looked over and all these tables at the beginning of the evening had these beautiful displays of books as the centerpiece, which is actually really cool. And they encouraged everyone to take books. They had tote bags on the chairs. And you could just fill up your little tote bag with books that you wanted to take home. And they encouraged everyone to take all the books. And I remember looking over at the table right next to me as they were filing out, and all the books were gone from this one table except for a single book. And I look over to see what that book was that they left, and it was Snowden's Box. And Snowden's Box is all about truth in the times of mass surveillance.
Yeah.
They left that book. And I was like, that pretty much sums up the entire evening for me.
Crazy.
That was such a powerful moment, just looking over and seeing that one book there. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
You should have took a picture of that.
Yeah.
I probably should have. Oh, wait, did I? Hold on, let me see.
I asked if you had pictures. You were like, nah.
I feel like I didn't, but maybe I did. I wasn't. Let me see if I took a picture of that. Now I'm second guessing myself. Did I? No, I didn't take a picture of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Snowden's Box. It was there. I promise you.
Yeah. Crazy. So, I think your story's up next, correct, Collin?
I think, yeah, it is.
I think so.
Yeah.
See if you can hit that slide over for me, would you?
Let's see if this works. We're working on new tech people, so.
Yeah, click of the thing. Click.
Did it work?
Yeah, click. Hold on. Maybe. No, go back the other way.
Wait.
Wrong way again.
Okay.
Okay. One more. Oh, shit, we got it.
Oh, wait.
You're good.
No.
I got you. I
Okay.
can pause it.
It works, but I think it's a delay for me.
Yeah, I just had to pause the video before it starts. Go
But
ahead.
you can keep it here. So,
Yep.
so this is not so much of a rant this week. This is kind of more of a stream of consciousness, which I tend to do sometimes. But I was thinking about this clip in connection to Nina Turner's interview with Crystal Ball and Kyle Kalinske on Crystal Call and Friends regarding her thoughts regarding, like creating alliances among people that's nonpartisan in order to push for policy. And, I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of, or has been a lot of, like issues with people talking about the class issue and how people online are calling those people like certain, personalities like Savvy, Nick, mostly RBN, because they talk heavily about the class struggle as being like right-wingers or part of the Red-Brown Alliance. But then Nina, and I'm kind of surprised this didn't get a lot of play as it probably should have. Nina had an interview with Crystal and Kyle, and she kind of mentioned this in terms of, talking about, the solidarity that needs to be had in order to push for policy. So I basically pulled the clip. Actually, this was part of a tweet that I sent out, I think over the weekend that I pulled. So yeah, you can play it.
Should look at as we critique and judge ourselves and not get caught up in what the mainstream media has to say about this movement, because the overwhelming majority of the American people are right where this movement is. They might not, Crystal, and they might not, Kyle, call themselves progressives. If we take the label off and you just talk to people about, is your health care enough? Is it serving you? Are you making enough money on your job? Would you like to see things change in this society that gives you more than a fighting chance to live out your greatest greatness? Most people, no matter how they identify politically, are going to say, yeah, I would like to see more done. That unionist movement is an example of that. You got people who were probably Bernie-crats, Clintonites, Trumpites, Green Party, no party, all uniting based on what they had in common. And what they had in common was a drive and a determination to say, we deserve more. We deserve better. We're going to put our political ideology on the side and fight like hell to get that better. And that's benefits, that's wages, and that's work conditions. This is the roadmap that the progressive movement needs to use so that we keep on fighting. We cannot get weary in well-doing.
On Twitter, but is Nina a right winger now? Because she kind of talked about how you need to form alliances across party lines in order to push for policy, So I watched that maybe over a week ago. And then I started thinking more in terms of this kind of entered the realm for me as far as organization and what that looks like. And we've gotten there's a lot of discussion, like especially within the past couple of weeks about, we need to organize. And, in order to push for policy, we've heard AOC say this. We hear a lot of our politicians say, oh, you need to organize. And people are organizing, and I know for Ricky especially, I can attest, like it's been happening, but they're not necessarily being recognized by our leaders in government, or they choose to ignore those direct action measures that people, especially who live in the grassroots, are doing, across the country.
Or people ask, like, why are you even doing this for some reason?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of that. A lot of that. Nina Turner knows we exist. March Medicare for All. By the way, she knows. She's very well aware. It's on her radar.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that there was a whole event that she didn't show up to because she was campaigning for a campaign she lost by a large margin.
Yep.
So anyways,
Anyways, so I was just over the weekend, I was just kind of doing what I typically do and just kind of binge watched clips on YouTube. And I've listened to this before, but I think I kind of stumbled across it again. Listening to Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. Those of you who don't know, basically he was a Black activist, very active in the 60s,
progressive movement
during the civil rights movement. You could say he's almost kind of a contemporary to John Lewis, actually. So here, I'm not sure what year this clip was taken from. My guess is probably the 90s, both of these clips. But I found this clip, and actually I probably might save this on my channel at a later point. But he talks about the African bourgeoisie and the class struggle. And as I said, like we've been having a lot of talks, I think on the left with certain personalities who talk about how we should focus on class versus party. And so I wanted to play this because I think, number one, we don't hear much of Kwame Ture a lot, if ever. But I wanted to kind of play this just to hear his perspective on what he deems as is necessary, given, as he says, the African bourgeoisie. But if you can replace African with American, and it still pretty much applies.
Gotcha.
But what he says regarding the class struggle in general. So,
with our struggle since the 60s, you will see nothing but betrayals by the petty bourgeois elements in our society. The African bourgeoisie is the most corrupt bourgeoisie in the world. In Africa, they seek luxury in the midst of mass suffering. There are more Mercedes in Africa than in any other continent in the world. In America, as soon as they arrive at a position based on this blood of the people, they snatch that position and run away from the people. But you must not think that they represent the people. They only represent their opportunistic self, using the people every step of the way. So you must not be confused. It must be clear then, for the 60s, the class struggle in the African Revolution must be more ruthless and uncompromising than in any other revolution. Here then the masses must come without pity and without mercy to trample upon these reactionary pigs who, after the people have gained struggle through their blood, come to hand back the gains on a silver platter to the very enemy the people fought. This will come as a natural consequence. The people themselves are everywhere screaming that it's time for them to deal with these reactionary pigs. Even in America, they say, our leaders must be held accountable. They're only saying here that these people must be accountable to those who made it possible for them to get there. Thus, not only is the revolution inevitable, but it is clarifying itself and it is qualifying itself. For the African masses everywhere, the clairpoised position now for class struggle has become inevitable and irreversible. The petty bourgeoisie everywhere will be running for cover, but the masses will spare them not. Consequently, we who have dedicated our lives to the people's struggle, we who, knowing that the people will always be free, we, understanding that we must make a contribution to qualify our struggle since the 60s, have been dedicating all our energies to only one task: the organization of the masses of our people. The organization of the masses of our people. We are not running for mayor, we're not running for president. No changes can come from the top down. We're not stupid. Changes can only come from the bottom up. The masses and the masses alone can make them. If you want to learn something from the 60s, the lesson is simple: organize the masses of the people. Thank you.
I mean, this was talked about in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, and we're still talking about this now. Any thoughts, Ricky or Reef, regarding what Brother Kwame said, or anything that stuck out to you?
I see Ricky's gears turning. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 100% correct. And this is what some of us keep chirping, while the other ones want to, kiss the butts of everyone in Congress. yeah, we have to deal with Congress because they exist and they are the legislators. However, 1998, oh man, RIP. What a brilliant mind. But people got to get out there, and it's not going to be pretty, but what I've noticed, man, activists, like the people I've worked with, that we are not capable. I don't know if we're even capable anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people just, there's just some groups altogether that will not criticize anyone in a position of power, or in a position of power on their side of the aisle, or what have you. And then I see other people that just like, they get into activism and it's all emotions. It's all like, oh, my feelings, or I'm not being heard. It's like, it's a fight. We're fighting power. Like, I can't understand how you get into activism and you come in and you pearl clutch. Like, there's just no room for that. We're here to fight power. Like, if you and I hate to be this guy, but like, there needs to be people with backbones in this movement, any movement for that matter, whether it's, healthcare, climate, insert whatever issue is important to you. But like, there's a lack of backbone,
Well, the fact that they won't ask, like, we're done asking. All of us are done asking.
Bro.
We're now demanding. We're in the streets. We're here. And we constantly get pushback from like, every, pearl clutching, like, person out there that's like, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why aren't you doing this? And it's like, well, what else are we going to do? Nothing else has worked. Voting hasn't worked, clearly. Like, you can't get the people you have already elected to do the thing that they set out to elect themselves to do. Like, what are we doing? Those are the people you should criticize right now.
Yeah, these people are obsessed with being comfortable and for things to be convenient. And the thing is, they're just waiting. They're just riding this out, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And they refuse to make the move. So they're really waiting until we're past the point of no return. And it's really going to be too late then. It's already kind of too late now, but it's going to be really, really too late by the time these pearl clutchers wake up and start saying, oh, it looks like these powerful people have robbed not only the poor people, but robbed the entire planet of everything. Its resources, its life. Like, this planet is dying in so many different ways, and the people on it, it's really bad. But people are just too comfortable in America. Go to France and they're like pouring shit on like the president's house or something. Like, it's like wild over there. They're like punching people. Like, good for them.
But you know what, Ricky? I think you're bringing up a good point. And actually, I'm kind of glad you're here because you've actually have engaged in activism, I think, especially with the Marches for Medicare for All last year and again this summer. I think our big problem is on the left. We do a very good job of mobilizing people. We're good at kind of bringing people together. I think one thing, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm bashing like you or anybody else, especially who are doing this work. But I think something that we need to kind of be mindful of and continue to work on is the organizing part, meaning like, what is the strategy in order to get the things that we want? What is the roadmap in order to get from point A to point B? And how can we? So I think we're very good at gathering people around the issues. That I don't think is too much of a problem. I think especially in this day and age, and given the fuckery that's happening in this country in particular, I think there's a lot of buy-in for issues like Medicare for All, like a livable wage and all of that. The question that we need to now, like, okay, now you have people's attention, how can we get to the point of what are the steps that we need to get in order to ensure that we get there? I think people do think, like, and this is kind of why I kind of get frustrated, in terms of like people thinking, like a one-day strike or just strike for like a few hours and then it's just over and done with. and you go home. No, like that can be part of it, but it has to be a part of a comprehensive plan as far as, like mutual aid, like specific targeted, direct action at certain places or whatever, having to basically kind of be a disruption, to the establishment. And I know you, Ricky, are very committed to that, but I think others are not necessarily so. Like, they're not necessarily thinking of the long term as far as, and the detailed work that it needs in order to push for certain things. Like, as Kwame Ture said, we have to be relentless and uncompromising. And it's like the idea of being like, these are the things that we stand for, and nothing else. And I think part of it is, you have people who claim to be on the left who kind of infiltrate and kind of, muddy the waters a little bit, that people like either second guess, or as you said, Ricky, go by emotions, and like take it personally, that they kind of lose the focus or the vision of what they're supposed to do, and then they kind of drop off. And so I think generally we need to do a lot better in being like, what do we stand for, and what are we not going to tolerate, and how can we get to the things that we want and not be relentless and uncompromising in those values.
Yeah.
Well, like I've noticed that almost all of the activists are like burnt out pretty much. Like all the ones who've been in it for a minute, like, and pick a subject, whether it's Assange, whether it's Medicare for all, or I mean, literally pick an issue. Almost all the activists are just done. They're tired. They're exhausted. Like they've been in it for so long, years at this point, and they're just waiting for the fresh bodies to show up. Like, that's pretty much it. We're all just kind of waiting right now,
100%.
So
See what forces change is these sustained actions, whatever they might be, in whatever form they come in. It doesn't really matter. It's not really rocket science. It's really just having the reinforcements and having the long sustained actions. We can look just as far as last year or earlier this year, really. We can look at the trucker convoys.
Yep.
It's really interesting because when the people who fight for progressive legislation don't have this kind of drive or oomph behind them at all. But when people don't want something to happen, boy, it's really easy to organize people. When they don't want something to happen, they show up. And yeah, oftentimes it is a more right-leaning movement. They do, because they don't sit around talking about their emotions.
Right.
They don't get caught up in, how are you feeling about this?
Right.
I'm pissed off. I do not want this. Let's go do a thing. It might be sloppy. We might get called names and slandered and everything else. But guess what? They had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people supporting them worldwide.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless of your stance on the whole topic, I don't even care. They changed something. They went out there and they did it. They changed the world. They definitely changed the whole topic. They changed the trajectory of this whole COVID nightmare of the past 2 years. They really did. And that's what it takes. And that just was spur of the moment. That was inspired by real life that was happening. And they said, you know what? Enough is enough. Enough of them got together and just did the thing. Thing is, like, it could be done for any of this. It could be done for passing legislation. But unfortunately, you have a lot of people who divide and conquer themselves. We're seeing that in the healthcare thing. It's like, well, let's go fight in 50 different states for 50 different healthcare plans, and most states can't afford it and don't have ballot initiatives. And it's like, okay, guys, if we all just stormed DC and said healthcare, and then we did this constantly, it would change things.
I think it's just the phrasing. As long as you don't say storm, you do something like a hug in, right? You do like a hug in, and then it'll all be fine.
Yeah, but no, it's time to stop being. It's time to stop pussyfooting around. Like, if you want shit, go get shit and stop. Yeah, storm DC, descend on DC, cause a ruckus. Where's AOC? She ain't nowhere to be found.
Pussy.
So so we are gonna turn things up a little bit with March Medicare for All. We have the March and Rally on Saturday, which is going to be kind of a come one, come all, as many people as possible event. Saturday, July 30th. But in the days leading up, I'm gonna be there a few days early. We're gonna like do some shit around DC. We're gonna be like, maybe chalking up, buildings and sidewalks and like maybe putting things on statues.
Glow
We might
stick
be
rave.
hanging.
You know what I'm saying?
We might hang banners. We might cause a ruckus on Capitol Hill. We might be doing a lot of things to like stir the pot a little bit, and that's gonna interest. Like last year, we did 56 actions and exploded onto the scene. It wasn't controversial, but it like that was our introduction to the world. Hello, here we are. Now it's time that we have to turn up the heat, right? And it's really hard. You're not gonna you can't sit here and worry about like, oh, can we get the endorsement of this organization? Because they're all useless. They're all I hate to be that guy, but I can sit here and email DSA for months and they'll be like, well, let's send it up the chain and see if it, we'll send it to that committee, and they'll say no because it's all bureaucratic. It's all gatekeeping, right? So you have to say, fuck DSA, fuck our revolution. All they want to do is protect, the progressives, which means absolutely nothing because they're not actually giving us healthcare. So what we have to do is just get out there and cause a ruckus. And then that's what's going to really put the heat on the progressives is that oh, are you supporting the grassroots activists that are fighting tooth and nail, or are you just sitting back and watching them do it? That's going to make them look bad. So,
so you have
if you want
this other video from Kwame, correct?
Yes. So continuing on my stream of consciousness, so Kwame talked about, the class struggle. And then that's in turn when I started thinking more in terms of how the class struggle relates to organization. So this is our second clip of him, and it's short. Yeah, it's short. So so if you want to play that, Reed. Actually, let me do it.
Go ahead.
See if it works.
See if you could do it.
We will not stop.
Yes.
We have told you it's a fact. If you look at history, I have known no great man or no great woman that didn't belong to an organization, not one. The American capitalist system will so confuse some of us that we will actually think that we by ourselves can lead the people to their freedom. There's no such thing as Rambo or Superman. It exists only in Hollywood. Fidel Castro, as bad as he is, he needs the Communist Party of Cuba to help direct Cuba. V.I. Lenin, as rough as he is, he needed a Bolshevik party. Karl Marx was a great man, had to organize the International Working Men's Association. The Honorable Marcus Garvey saw clear and long, but he needed the Universal Negro Improvement Association of the African Community Leagues. Patrice Lumumba was a great man, he needed organization. Harriet Tubman was a rough sister, she needed organization. Rosa Parks sat down so we can get up, she needed organization. Malcolm X so loved organization that when he left the Nation of Islam, he created two organizations, the Muslim Mosque Incorporated for Muslims and the African American Organization, spotted after the Organization of African Unity. Everywhere you will see the need for organization. Martin Luther King was a righteous man, but even he recognized the need for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And while Nelson Mandela is known all over the world, he still has the African National Congress. Every brother or sister who truly seeks to advance the world must belong to an organization. This we will not stop telling you.
Yeah.
So I don't think we think about that too much. Honestly, I don't think about that much. But the saying is, behind every man is a great woman. I think we need to be saying behind every politician is a great organizational arm that they're connected to, you know? And I think I shared this with you, Reef, last night and in the, as we were prepping, I think really moving forward, we should be asking our politicians, anyone who's considering running for office, who is the organization that's backing you?
Yeah.
Because I think that will kind of tell us a lot as far as what their values are and who are they really for. So I never honestly thought about that until I watched this clip, but the idea pretty much every major movement that has happened in this country and in history has always stemmed from the idea of an organization, good or bad, or in between, backing that person or people. So, so I wanted to kind of think about this in terms of the squad, because we all know, many of us know, who is their organization arm, Justice Democrats. But obviously, like they, through this organization arm, they haven't done shit. So, so the question is, why are they not doing the shit, even though they have this organization that's backing them? So, and I wanted to do that in comparison to Kshama Sawant, who's actually connected with Socialist Alternative, as, a counter to that. So there's an article, hold on.
You got it. You might need to go twice since it's the video.
She will not stop.
Yep, hit it twice.
It's a fact. If you look at history,
Okay,
there it is.
There we go. So I found this article written by Aaron Brightway. This was on Socialist Alternative's website. So why Socialist Alternative is launching a caucus in DSA. Now I know DSA is problematic, but I think the context of what she mentions in the article, I think, is very it connects to a lot. I think what we're talking about here. This is not the whole article, but I'll just read the parts that I think that are important. We have commented before on the rightward drift of the leadership of Democratic Socialists of America. To be blunt, since Biden's election, many DSA leaders have provided left cover to Bernie Sanders and the squad, as Sanders and the squad have abandoned the program on which they were elected. From Force to Vote to the Bowman affair, DSA leadership failed to confront their endorsing representatives, as those representatives entered into a doomed compact with a longtime servant of capitalism, Joe Biden.
Not Joe. Go ahead.
The squad operated with the thin Democratic margin in the House, could have used that leverage to force through progressive reforms. As we have argued, there's a huge opportunity for them to fight for pro-working class demands like Medicare for All and a Green New Deal in the halls of Congress, while also helping to mobilize a movement for their program in the streets that DSA could have played a major role in building. Instead of using their power to win concrete victories and build a socialist movement, they limited their activity to being the loyal opposition of the Democratic Party in power, and they abandoned their own program. The limited program of the squad did support Biden's original agenda, now lies in ruins, and the Republicans are poised to reap the windfall of disappointment generated by those failures. The Democratic Party is increasingly discredited among large sections of the population. Socialists have every motivation to make a decisive break from Democrats, firstly because, at its essence, the Democratic Party is a party for and for capitalism that will sell out the working class at any opportunity. But also, it is a deeply damaged brand. Biden is now the president of a failed pandemic response, expiring federal relief, and inflation. Furthermore, the dirty break inside-outside strategy towards the Democrats has not proven itself as a viable strategy to win concrete victories for our movement, or to strengthen the forces of movements towards a new left party. DSA candidates should run as independent socialist candidates, not Democrats, as Kshama Sawant has done successfully now to win free elections in Seattle. So, so I think obviously what a lot of people know, and Savvy did some friend of the show and member of RBN. She has done, she has done a lot of work kind of exposing Justice Democrats and kind of exposing how much dark money they have been taking, which ultimately corrupts this fraud. I wanted to show this clip. She interviewed Cynthia McKinney, a former Congresswoman, I think on Friday. And she kind of makes a point as to, why, the squad, hasn't done what they were supposed to do. So actually, wait.
You do it. I believe in you.
If it was Nina Turner, I would feel some kind of way.
She probably does. And what it demonstrates is that these people who are paraded before us as progressives can talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And so at some point, you just have to accept what Congresswoman Maxine Waters said to me many years ago. Cynthia, you just have to accept that when the leadership tell us to do something, we're going to do it. And that's just sort of you could say the price of incumbency is your values. And it's very hard to be in alignment with your values when you are answering to someone else. The problem is that the members of the Democratic caucus, as well on the other side, the members of the Republican caucus, answer to someone else. What we need, first of all, we'll never get it without election integrity, but we need more independence. We need people who are not walking the political party line to be able to make decisions based on whether the policy is good or not good for the people of the United States. That should be the sole criterion.
And so people are saying to us that, but you still have to vote for them because they're the lesser of two evils. But
no, when they join the evil, they're not lesser than anything except what they said to you. So they become lesser caricatures of themselves to the public because they're not even living up to their own rhetoric, because in the end, that's what it is. It's just rhetoric.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I
went in there.
I saw this earlier on Twitter, and it was definitely getting some play again. But yeah, no, I mean, I think she's absolutely right. Like they're definitely bought at this point. You know, there's no lesser evil in any of those politicians. Like, you know, they're all evils. Might as well vote Cthulhu at this point.
But I think again, it kind of goes to show you, if the Justice Democrats are the organization arm of the squad, like the Justice Democrats are meant to be the ones who are helping to immobilize the progressive base in order, you know, the squad working in tandem with the Justice Democrats in lieu of us to get shit done.
Yeah.
So the fact that they haven't done that, you know, kind of shows what the the Justice Democrats have basically showed, you know, what their values are. And obviously, like, we've been duped, you know, as far as what they were selling to us initially is not the reality of what they claim to be. And which has resulted in the squad, you know, ultimately aligning with the establishment versus aligning with us. So essentially, like, whatever values they had going in, and I've said this before because people, again, I say this all the time, like, people think, oh, you hate the squad. No, I don't hate the squad. What I hate is that they came in with a certain value set that they just kind of dismissed once they're in office, seemingly now for the sake of their survival, you know, and for their careers, essentially. So that's what I hate about them, you know. So, but I wanted to play that of what Cynthia said in comparison to what Kshama Sawant herself said 4 years ago in an interview. And it's funny, like, I think it's definitely worth watching the whole interview because, again, this was 5 years ago now, because she did this in summer 2016. And a lot of what she said there, you know, basically has come to pass, if not more so since then. So, but contrast, you know, what we know about the squad to what Kshama Sawant has been able to do in light of what Kwame Ture mentioned as far as organizing and being a part of the class struggle.
Ooh, try again. Oh, here, let me, I got you.
is Hillary
I don't
Clinton.
know
What
why.
you're suggesting is that there is a way to go from here to build something better. I guess I'm scared that there's likely to be a huge disappointment for the people that have come into this race on the Bernie Sanders side, because at the end of the day, they'll be shuttled into the same old politics.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I feel the same fear that unless we provide a different avenue for the political energy, especially of the younger generation, there will be a wave of demoralization. If Bernie Sanders simply turns around and says, you know, you all supported me because you hate the corporate establishment, now I'm going to tell you to support that very corporate establishment. I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to have endorsed Hillary in a few months' time. But so far, all indications are that he may not go the movement for Bernie path. You know, we are urging through movement for Bernie that he should run as an independent. And I'll say this, I mean, I don't know this is going to happen. I don't think it's likely, but you never know. Events are shifting. But I would say this, if Sanders was to run as, you know, as a presidential candidate with Stein on the Green Party ticket, with Jill Stein, who has launched her independent campaign with an excellent program, I might say, you know, her program is more to the left than Bernie Sanders' program. And if we had a Sanders-Stein presidency run, it would be enormous. It would be no less than a political earthquake. But at the same time, I will also say this. I will thank Bernie for all the service he has, you know, provided in terms of really activating a whole tens of millions of young people. I will also not want to sacrifice our movement to his decision if he were to decide to endorse Hillary Clinton. We should be standing with Sanders as long as he can go and really demanding that he run as an independent. But at the same time, we should not hold our movement hostage to any one person's decision. Our movement has to keep going forward. So I would say that if Sanders does not run as an independent, does not run with Stein, then we absolutely, our movement should stand behind Stein and, you know, really support her candidacy. But not, and again, it's not just about her either. It's about using Jill Stein's campaign, using her platform in order to raise the question of independent politics. And that would be a good vehicle if Sanders does not run.
If you were, I don't know.
I want to stop there for a second, but I think, you know, basically, you know, like she's describing what Kwame Ture was describing before. I think in terms of like being unapologetic and uncompromising in your values. And I think she kind of mentioned here, like, we will follow Bernie Sanders to a point. And if he goes, and he goes in the way of the Democratic Party, which he did twice, then she is like, we can't support that, you know? And I think, you know, like, and I wish the squad had that kind of courage. You know, I wish, honestly, many of our politicians had that kind of courage to kind of say, you know, I will support, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, then you definitely have my endorsement, but only if you do what you're supposed to do. And if you don't, then we have to back off, because these are not the values that we have within the organization that I'm a part of. And so I really love that Kashama said, like, in line with Socialist Alternative, I am not going to compromise the organization or myself or the values that collectively we have set, you know, to fall in line with the Democratic Party if Bernie ends up, you know, endorsing, at the time, Hillary Clinton. And, well, we know the result of that, and we saw that twice, you know, given that he did it a second time with Biden. Anything real quick before I continue?
No, I mean, I think this was 2016, and
2016,
we're still like essentially what she said exactly came true. There was a demoralizing wave. The entire left is now demoralized. Like, we have no, essentially, Bernie did hold the movement hostage, and, you know, wasn't able to like transfer it over to some third party or some other like organization. So now it's dead in the water pretty much. You know, which is what everyone's been seeing in the movement. So, you know, anything you got to add, Ricky, or?
Nope.
Yep.
I think Kashama Sawan is always spot on.
Yeah.
Like, if we listen to her more, we'd be better off.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let me finish this.
I don't know why it's having trouble for you.
Probably because
what
it's
you're
time.
suggesting is that there is a way to go from here to build something better. I guess I'm scared that there's likely to be a huge disappointment.
Fast forward it. That's not where. That's bad. Guess I can't do
The
that.
corporate establishment. Now I'm going to tell you to support that very corporate establishment. I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to.
It was
I
like
mean,
right
I
in
don't
here,
know
right?
that this is going to happen. I don't think with an excellent program. I might say, you know, it's her program is more to the left than Bernie Sanders's program. And if we had a Sanders-Stein presidency
Yeah, just let it go
run,
from here.
it would be enormous. It would be no less than a political earthquake. But at the same time, I will also say this. I will thank Bernie for all the service he has, has provided in terms of really activating a whole tens of millions of young people. I will also not want to sacrifice our movement to his decision if he were to decide to endorse Hillary Clinton. We should be standing with Sanders as long as he can go and really demanding that he run as an independent. But at the same time, we should not hold our movement hostage to any one person's decision. Our movement has to keep going forward. So I would say that if Sanders does not run as an independent, does not run with Stein, then we absolutely, our movement should stand behind Stein and really support her candidacy. But not, and again, it's not just about her either. It's about using Jill Stein's campaign, using her platform in order to raise the question of independent politics. And that would be a good vehicle if Sanders does not run.
If you were, I don't know, mayor tomorrow, or if you had charge of a city like Seattle, what would be your socialist agenda? What would you actually try to do or get done at the local level? What would it look like?
Well, first of all, just to give the political context behind which we won as a city council member and won the re-election, and if we were to win other seats and if we were to run other candidates, it's definitely not about me. It's not about Bernie, it's not about me. It's about that mass movement that we're building, and we would like to run independent candidates and build an independent party in service of these mass movements to win social change. It's not about the candidates. But if we were to win such a platform, it would, if we were to have won that platform, it would have indicated already an ascendancy of the movement. I mean, the fact that we won was not in a political vacuum. It won because there was a movement, Occupy movement, the Wisconsin public sector uprising. Things were changing all across the world, starting with the Arab Spring. And so I would say that if that happened, we would have a groundswell of momentum for all kinds of things. We would want to tax the rich to fund public schools. We would want to tax corporations to make full funding available for a full-fledged metropolitan mass transit system in Seattle, which we've been fighting for. But who's the obstacle to that? The Democratic Party establishment. So the first number one step is to build our independent movements and build an independent party.
Yeah. Yep. Couldn't agree more.
I mean, we need more of that, honestly. So I think to sum up, I think as Barbara Touré said, and I'll make this point, to anyone, who asks, ask your politicians who's your organizational arm that's backing you. And because I think that's a telltale sign of like where the values lie. And many times I think as we're beginning to see, like a lot of their organizational ties, if you do the digging, is not always tied to grassroots. More often than not, a lot of these organizations have some type of corruption, or dirty money that's infiltrated into them, like have we seen with the Justice Democrats. So I really think that that's something that we should be moving forward, that we should ask our politicians, just so we kind of know, like, because I think now it's becoming the trendy thing of saying like, oh, I don't take any corporate money and all of that. But then like, if you dig deep enough, that's not always the case, so.
Right.
So I think, again, just the corporate, the organizational arm is kind of indicative of the values of the politician, and I think, yeah, as I said, we definitely need to ask, of our politicians, just so that we can truly know if they're really, working, will work in tandem for the establishment, or if they will, or if they will really work for us. Yeah, so that's all I gotta say.
Slides. Hello. Come on, slides. There we go. So, in other terrible news, the new Australian Prime Minister is squandering his leverage on Assange. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to Miss Misty Winston or, Andrew Zygmunt over at A4A talking about this. And this is by Joe Loria over at Consortium News, who, after their whole PayPal debacle, people should be giving them some donations, help out. So Anthony Albanese, the newly elected Australian Prime Minister, may have passed up the best opportunity he will ever have to exchange Julian Assange freedoms for Australia's continued cooperation with U.S. aims in the Pacific region. Albanese had his first bilateral meeting on Tuesday with U.S. President Joe Biden at the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue summit in Tokyo, when the leaders of the four nations, Australia, India, Japan, and the U.S., met to discuss relations with China. Reports on the Biden-Albanese one-on-one make no mention of Assange. At the opening of their meeting, Biden launched a charm offensive that Albanese ate up, the Melbourne Daily The Age reported. The way Joe Biden greeted Anthony Albanese on Tuesday suggested the U.S. President and Australian Prime Minister will get along just fine. Biden pointed to Albanese as soon as he saw him arrive for the official photographs of the Quad Leaders Summit on Tuesday. The president put a hand on his arm, greeted him with a warm smile, smelled his hair, and then began. Once the formalities were over, Biden drew Albanese in close again. He put his arm over Albanese's shoulder as they walked towards the meeting room, and he got one more sniff. In fact, Biden handed up to make sure everyone knew the relationship between the U.S. and Australia was in safe hands on both sides of the Pacific. Later, in their formal bilateral meeting, when Albanese spoke about his travel across the U.S. as a young man and reveled he had met with the NRA, Biden jokingly stood up, pretending to leave their bilateral talks in disgust. Albanese burst out laughing, as did most others in the room, before Biden reached out to shake his hand. "You're a brave man," he said. So yeah. Much of the substance of their bilateral was telegraphed in advance, and it did not include Assange. In remarks Monday before he left for Japan, Albanese had already said that his Labour government is fully on board with the Quad's agenda, as the previous government at Scott Morrison's had been. More importantly, Albanese said Australia would sign on to Biden's just announced creation of a new 13-nation Asian economic bloc aimed at opposing China's economic dominance in the region, according to reports in the Australian and the Sydney Morning Herald. Biden had only just announced the new bloc on Monday before he was even sworn in. Albanese apparently told Biden Australia joining the bloc during a telephone conversation they had on Sunday as Biden flew to Japan. Albanese was quoted in the Australian as saying that he would send a message to the world that there's a new government in Australia, while reassuring partners there would be continuity in the way they have respect for democracy and the way that we value our friendships and longtime alliances. That's very much a public and private position there, guy. Albanese also spoke with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the Herald reported. Albanese spoke to UK counterpart Boris Johnson while flying to Tokyo on Monday. A spokesman described the conversation as friendly and positive. The discussion with Johnson, including a commitment from Albanese to support the AUKUS alliance on nuclear submarines and talks on climate change. Thoughts so far? Anything in particular other than yay for, yeah, pretty much. Essentially says hey, I'll be in lockstep, that's what I hear. So,
another day, another puppet.
Yep. Oh, it's not even a fun puppet. There's no sympathetic movement or googly eyes, But apparently, asking for nothing in return, Albanese gave away the store to Biden and Johnson, not even raising Assange's name. According to these reports, he had the leverage of asking Biden to drop the case and Johnson to block the extradition in exchange for continuity from the Morrison government on AUKUS, the Quad, and on joining Biden's new economic bloc. So essentially, yeah, you sold them, you gave them all the free stuff. You were like, here you go, here's the free stuff. Of course, not everything discussed between the leaders was reported. There remains an outside chance Albanese did range Assange in his conversations with Biden, but there has been no movement on Assange after Albanese gave Biden and Johnson what they wanted. At his bilateral with Biden, Albanese may have had one piece of leverage left, Biden's remark Monday that the U.S. would military defend Taiwan broke with previous U.S. and Australian policy, The Guardian reported Monday. Just 6 months ago, Labor criticized the then Defense Minister Peter Dutton for telling the Australian newspaper it would be inconceivable that we wouldn't support the U.S. in an action if the U.S. chose to take that action in Taiwan. So, yeah, we're just giving away the house, pretty much. If Biden asked Albanese to reverse Labor's policy and commit to military action against China over Taiwan, a very serious request, did Albanese raise the subject of Assange? Afterward, he told reporters, I confirm there's no change in Australia's positions. There should be no unilateral change to the status quo. Our position has not changed. Could you put that any more bluntly? Like, literally, the status quo will be fine. That's what he said. When British Home Secretary Priti Patel's decision on extradition imminent, it may have been Albanese's best chance to make good on his past comments that enough is enough and that Assange should be freed. So, I have to pull away from our thing here for a second and hit F11 so I can see my tabs. Andrew over at A4A, right, is talking about this particular petition that needs to publicly reach the desk of the Australian MP. So it's this one, which I will put the link for in chat. Where is it at? I'm looking for it. Signed journalist statement. I think it's in this one, right? Yeah, this one. Speak up for Assange.org. And I'll throw that in the restream chat here. But yeah, we have that. We have Misty, friend of the show, Comrade Misty, giving us the contact information for Albanese here, if people still wanted to call and harass him. That phone is 02, the country code 9564-3588. Or you can fax him, which I think is an even better choice in some respects, 02-9564-1734. So there's phone and fax for the Parliamentary House Office at 02-6277-4022, and their fax 02-6277-8562. But yeah, if we could just get him out of there at this point. How do we send like files to Belmarsh? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but it makes sense because in a twisted way, but like, you know, Assange, if Assange was able to expose the US for their war crimes, there's, you know, that's implication of, you know, Australia too. So they have as much of a reason for him to essentially, like, I'm going to say it, like, kill him, you know, like, than just as much as the US does. So it's not surprising that, you know, they're not saying anything regarding Assange because it's an implication of them too. So it's just like, we want this to go away and we will support you, you know, in what you choose to do. So not surprising there.
Yeah. Yeah. But everyone should go sign the petition, I think, at least. You know, I made sure to call Priti Patel and the Home Office and the DOJ. So everyone should have also done that when Misty asked you to. If Misty asked you to do something, just do it at this point. Like, just do it. Just do that thing. But anyway, so I think that's the end of my Assange story there. Let me go to our last story for this evening, which this is a real short one. So, I'm going to just hit present with remote. Hopefully it's the same number. Why is it there? Click, 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 click. Don't worry, I got it. Cool. And hit F11 so that it's full screen. Jeez, computers, guys. It's a crazy world we live in. All right, so DC substitute teachers win big, continue struggle. Popularresistance.org. Morgan Atakarina and Michael Bierman from Liberation News, I think. So they're talking about that substitute teachers in DC public schools have won their first raise in 14 years. This comes after 5 months of picketing outside DC government offices under the banner of Washington Substitute Teachers United, demanding higher wages and benefits amid rapidly rising costs of living in the city caused by gentrification. Although having promised wage increases since February of 22, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser and Chairman of the DC Council Phil Mendelson blamed the delay on computer issues, while resulted in only a few substitute teachers receiving a raise. So what, did it just go like alphabetical? Like, you know, only like the A through C's got it? What happened? So during the bureaucratic mess, Washington Substitute Teachers United decided the only way to win was to struggle and launched their weekly pickets outside the John A. Wilson Building, D.C. City Hall. The Party for Socialism and Liberation joined them in the push, helping to organize a public pressure campaign online and in person, including an impromptu sidewalk meeting with Chairman Mendelson one morning as he passed the picket line. So, yeah.
Again, just real quick, this is kind of the organization. I mean, it's small, but it shows like there's intention there. There's uncompromising. They're uncompromising here, and it was strategic. You know, they went every single week. You know, so it was long term. So this is, I think, something very simple, but these are the kind of things that I think we need to do, you know, more so on the left consistently, especially with bigger issues, like having just one march or one, you know, sit out or whatever else is not going to cut it. You know, like you have to make it hurt, you know, for them in order for them to do something. So, you know, so this is exactly what, you know, Brother Touré was mentioning. And, you know, like the Party of Socialism and Liberation joined them in this. So they got the attention that they needed in order for that to make the demands met. So,
like, I mean, the hard part for me is, and we've talked about this before with especially union efforts, but like politicizing the union effort to begin with, right? You know, even though it's the socialist, you know, like party for, you know, rainbows and sunshines, like someone might not like it, you know, like that's just the way it goes. So it's like, if you can get away with it not being attached to a party in any way.
I think, to play devil's advocate, I think this is not like the Democratic or Republican Party, which I think are the big like parties. You know, this is a kind of more obscure, so it may not have that huge of an effect in this case. Like, I think it would be very different if we saw like AOC or like someone on the, like, let's say Ted Cruz, you know, coming into this. I think then I think that would be a lot more jarring. And we kind of talked about that, you know, regarding Chris Smalls. But this is like for alternate party. So which I don't mind it as much. Ways is better. I think in a way, because they're usually not running, like they don't have the same stink of partisanship than like an alternative party, third party does. So
no, absolutely. You know, but it continues that teachers receive a higher salary, and some of their salary depends on how long they have been in the system. A substitute teacher told Liberation News, teachers receive benefits, sick leave, annual leave, cost of living increases, and substitute teachers do not. Before May 6, 2022, sub teachers were paid $15 an hour beginning in 2008. Unfortunately, some of us received a $5 increase and some of us received a $10 increase, solely based on the number of days a week we serve in the schools and not based on the quality of our work or experience. The DC government has yet to meet the demands of substitute teachers or offer them a true living wage. Washington Substitute Teacher United has demanded $35 an hour and full benefits. Just like other teachers, the DC government chose to offer them only a partial raise and create an arbitrary division between full-time, who will earn 10 more an hour, and part-time, who will receive only 5 more an hour. This is a clear attempt by the city government to divide the substitute teachers' struggle. However, Washington Substitute Teachers United rejected this attempt at division and responded with a message of unity. Keep fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally. When asked why, one DC substitute teacher told Liberation News, "I have seen protest fights work since I was a teenager. One of the reasons I came to Washington, D.C. for college was to be around the people who are coming to D.C. from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the SNCC. Their fight was bigger than a pay increase. It was for human lives. In a sense, we are working for human lives as well. If people do not receive a living wage, they will suffer. Black people have been fighting in this country since we landed in 1619. We will continue to fight if we want to live. We are worthy."
Can I?
Yes.
Cool fact. Kwame Ture was involved with with the NCCC. So,
okay, bringing it full circle.
Bring it full circle. Indirectly, didn't even know that.
Didn't even know. We were working on it. Our brains were linked. Yes. When asked why, one DC substitute teacher told Liberation News, "What? I just read this, did I not?"
Yes, you did.
Why did it? What? Slides, what are you doing? The District of Columbia ranks among the nation's worst cities for rapid gentrification as luxury development displaces one working class black community after another. The median rent in the city is $2,261 a month, meaning that to not be a cost burden by your rent, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, a resident would have to make $90,440 per year or $43.50 per hour. This is unjust, and the fight for a living wage by DC substitute teachers is also a fight back against the capitalist forces of displacement and community destruction. DC substitute teachers have made it clear that struggle has brought these wins, and only struggle will win their full demands. Yeah. So, thoughts?
Very quick. As a teacher, first of all, shout out to substitute teachers generally, because I can never do that. So the idea of going from school to school, you don't know what community you're going into and being able to teach. That's something, I'm not wired in that way. So shout out to substitute teachers for being willing to do that. Number one. Number two, as a teacher, we have it bad, but I think substitute teachers, and I think this article shows it, have it even worse, because it's almost kind of like they're considered second-class citizens in the education profession. And, and I think especially in DC, everything is just so fucking expensive here. It's like making $15 an hour. I mean, we talk about $15 an hour as a livable wage. That's what, 32 a year about? You can't, there is no way you can live on that in DC. Really, honestly, I don't know. You can't really live on that anywhere in the country at this point. Maybe down south, but even then, that's a stretch. So it's like, and I think especially given right now within the pandemic, I was sharing with my mom, earlier tonight, we're in the middle of standardized testing season, and pretty much they're you teachers have to be in school in order to, get these standardized tests done. But teachers have been getting sick, due to COVID, and students are getting sick because now we're in this wave of students getting COVID. So every day we have teachers out that we are trying to figure out how are we going to finagle, coverage. Not my partner teacher, but my grade level colleague had to be alone today because the person who usually subs for us had to be in my classroom because I was interviewing principals for next year. And so it's just a whole mess. So it's just kind of like, there needs to be a lot more love, for teachers in general, but I think especially substitute teachers. But the fact that they were not getting that much money at all to begin with, I think it's just a slap in the face. So shame on I hate Bowser with a fiery passion. But I love how they stuck to their guns and basically being the amount that they were given, they're no, not good enough. And we're going to continue fighting to get the fullness of what we want. And I think that's a great example of not subjecting yourselves to the crumbs that Democrats and or Republicans give you because, it's in the eyes of it's better than nothing, if you value yourself, you go for the whole pie, you deserve that, so I rather try and get as much as I can versus just kind of settling for the little bit that they can give you. Because they show if you're able to get that, if you're able to give a little bit, why not give more? And I think especially within the pandemic where substitutes are especially needed, they need to be compensated appropriately, especially living in DC.
I mean, what you could do is you just gotta slide to the left, let Bowser fall in the hole, and then you jump over and you get to the flag. No? And that's how this works?
Well,
no?
I will say this also because we're in the middle of a memorial race in DC right now. Our primary is next month. And there are a few candidates, especially within my circles, they're this person would be better than the other or whatever else. And, this is the struggle that I have. And this is kind of something within local politics I don't think we talk about a lot. I think especially given DC and its uniqueness, and then I think major cities in general, especially on the East Coast, you get rid of Bowser, fine, but the corporate interests are still there.
Yep.
And I haven't really watched the Mario race too closely here, which I should, but I haven't. But I think a lot of it is, the corporate interest as far as the gentrification that has been happening in the city, is going to continue regardless whether Bowser's there or not. And I haven't really heard anything from any candidate yet that really gives me any confidence that they're really going to do anything as far as especially for low income and the Washingtonians that have lived here that are being pushed out to surrounding areas in Maryland, because it's just way too expensive to be here in DC proper. I haven't heard anyone kind of speak to that, so you can get rid of Bowser, but the root problem still exists. And so for me, it's and I'm going to take Symphony McKinney again, people want a face change versus a regime change.
Right.
This is a prime example of that, so I'm kind of frustrated because no one's kind of speaking to the corporate interests that exist in DC that are not going to go away. And having one mayor removed and having another one or others who claim to be, I'm progressive, I'm grassroots, I don't take corporate money. You are running as a Democrat in this city, which to me is kind of a huge red flag for me, in terms of, you're going to be susceptible to those capitalist interests. So I don't really trust anyone, honestly, who's going to come in as mayor. They might do some tweaks around the edges, but I don't think it's going to be anything substantive. And that's my fear. I'm talking about this on the local level here. So, and I'm sure there are other cities and even some towns throughout the country that have this problem, so And I don't really feel like anyone's kind of speaking to that too much. So I think that's definitely a conversation that we need to have more on the left, because we talk about, engaging in local politics. And yes, that's way more important in a lot of ways than federal. But for me, with this issue, it's kind of like, well, what else are you supposed to do? So yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at, I think, in regards to that. But shout out to the substitute teachers, and shout out for, like taking a stand and not accepting the crumbs, basically.
Yep. And shout out to all the people doing the work. Speaking of people doing the work, Ricky, what work have you been up to? What do you got coming up?
Yo, I'm just still doing Medicare for All stuff. We're doing a little trivia for donations next. It's gonna be Wednesday, June 8th, so it's a little while from now, a couple weeks, I guess. So it's just a little thing for some small dollar donations. We're gonna have some other little fundraiser ideas coming up, and then we're gonna do about a week of actions in late July. So follow March for Medicare for All if you're not.
Nice.
That's really what I'm up to. We're gonna keep fighting for healthcare.
I think I've got your Twitter and stuff down in the doobly-doo down below.
Yeah. We definitely need to have you back on again before the marches, just so you could speak to that a little bit more, just to get people engaged in that too. So
yeah.
Thank you.
No problem, bro. Collin, anything you got coming up? Same old. Catch me next time.
Catch me next week. Like I said, I'm going to hope that more than likely, but we'll see, be an exclusive on INN News that I'll get to talk, hopefully, with a congressperson.
Nice. It's gonna be fun.
So we'll see. Like there's some, I have to do this carefully just due to the organization that I am affiliated with. They kind of know my views, so I gotta be very careful in how I proceed. But hopefully I can get something that I can share with you guys.
I'm glad people are familiar with your work, but go ahead.
But other than that, I'm going to be at this. So you guys know where I am. You guys know where you can find me at this point. So
yep. And I got your Twitter handles right below everyone anyway. So, people can just like read it and like pull it up. You know what I'm saying? But otherwise they're in the doobly-doo. Go down there, click the button. But I wanted to give some shout outs to the Rockfin peeps before we head out of here. Human Being tipped us $5. What's up, bro? Always appreciate it on the couch. Always appreciated on the Shadow Band Refugee tipping us another $2. Always appreciated.
Thank you, Shadow Band.
So appreciate it, fam. Poor leading the poor out here. Y'all are saints. You just don't know it. But anyway, I think I've got Reef After Dark this Friday. I'll figure it out. Jesse owes me one.
It's not be on this week.
Right. I was gonna do one. I just have to get like people to show up for them. That's the important part, So
look,
I'll figure it out.
This almost every week. So
yes. Yeah, as do I, sitting right next to you. But like Reef After Dark, we had to find some people. I think Jesse's definitely in for the most part. I'll find some people by then. So keep an eye on my Twitters. So same bat time, same bat channel otherwise. But as always,
it's all about geometry.
It's all about geometry. Thank you, Shaq. We appreciate you. And I think that's us out. I just got to hit this outro button. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
What's the line, everybody? Labels are bad. Stay independent.
Stay independent.
Who are these people?